Hello everyone, it's Laura with Heart of Ukraine Ministries. It is the 19th of April and it's the 55th day of the war. It's been a couple of days since we've given an update. Things have been really busy and pretty much are falling into bed dead at the end of the day. So there hasn't been much time to gather the information and do a video. But tonight I wanted to make sure that I focused on that and did that for you because I know many of you are waiting to hear from us. So what have we been up to? The two clients that we have, Sasha is doing well, but we're still having to caution him to not demand things or direct things, but to make suggestions, those kind of things, because he can be a bit bossy. Dima is basically a city boy who doesn't know how to do much out here in the village. He's trying to impress us because he wants to be valued, but we're trying to help him understand that he doesn't need to do that, and that just to listen to our instructions for the things that he doesn't know how to do, and things will be good. We've had a lot of contact with our ex-clients. Slava dropped by the center on Friday to get his medical evaluation and x-ray of his ankle in order to provide proof to the military. Yura was baptized on Sunday, which was really cool. We saw Peter at the feeding last week and this week. Last week he was drunk, this week he wasn't, and we had to continue to remind him, you know, he chose to leave, went and found that the office was closed, that we told him it was closed, but he has to wait for 30 days if he wants to come back. So he's seeming to think that if he just shows up that we're going to take him back and not follow our own rules. We also saw Victor, who came into church once but left really quickly. He's been at the feeding a couple times, and today he came up to me and asked if he could come back. And Mark and I had already discussed it, and Mark had decided a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, that he would take him back. So today we brought him home. But earlier this week, Saturday, gosh, I forget which day it was, we got a new client, Kolya, from the Leeton Prison Ministry. He's not from the prison or anything like that. They just came into contact with him. Family doesn't seem to want him. He's been living with a niece who finally said, you know, leave. So I'm not sure how difficult he is. He's 68 years old, kind of quiet-spoken. We'll kind of see, you know, what develops as we spend more time with him. And then we brought Victor home today from the feeding. So Victor was here, I think he left about May of last year. But he's the one that didn't use the weed eater well and broke our back window of our new van that we had just gotten. Damaged the back door because he didn't shut it correctly. You know, a number of things. So we're going to take it easy with him and giving him responsibilities, you know, because he seems to be a little bit accident prone with our things. Garden. We seeded our last grass field and fertilized it. So we've done all that for all of our grass fields. We rotohoed all the onions on Friday. So we've gotten the garlics and the onions taken care of. On Friday, with the help of a refugee family, we burned the corn stalks in one of our gardens. Especially because we had a forecast of rain coming, and that's the garden where we'll be planting our potatoes within the next week or two. Thursday evening, planted a number of things in our kitchen garden, things like dill, parsley, spinach, sorrel, fennel, celery, radishes. Our new cedar was delivered, and Mark is going to have to put it together. And the next thing for us to plant is our fodder or animal beets, and then our red beets here at the house. We have all of our herbicides, insecticides, and fertilizers for the most part, and we wanted to get that done early because we don't know what the supply and demand is going to be like. Animals, we have a buyer for 6 of our 8 piglets from Lulu, and there's another possible buyer for the last 2. We'll be selling them about 45 days old. Molly is due on the 2nd of May. Dolly is due on May 2nd, so we're preparing for her delivery. We've got the piglet box next to her, but she was kind of nosing around and actually broke the hinge on her pen, so I'm kind of having to climb over in and out, and Mark's going to hopefully get a lot of that welding done in the barn before she delivers. would be great. We've weaned the 2 groups of bunnies from their moms, and we've given them all their vaccinations. One was out of 4 bunnies. We had 3 girls and 1 boy, and out of the 6 bunnies, we had 4 boys and 2 girls, and they've all been moved into the next room, which we kind of consider our meat room, and we had 4 growing or young rabbits that we moved back into that room now, so taking care of that. We've mated 7 of our female rabbits, and hopefully near the last week in April, we'll be expecting more bunnies. They tend to breed much better when it starts to get warmer and there's a lot more sunlight. We have a turkey duck who's sitting really well on her eggs. It looks like one of the other nesting boxes is starting to gather some eggs, so hopefully a second turkey duck will be sitting. We've got 2 geese nesting boxes with eggs, and the geese are kind of here and there, but they kind of bury their eggs in the dirt, which is kind of interesting. Of course, our 30 chicks that we bought and the 20 chicks that we raised from the incubator are growing really well, and probably in a week or so we're going to be releasing them out into the main flock. We have had a couple of birds die recently, and I think it's from maybe the rabbit feed that drops and they eat it, and it causes an imbalance. So I'm the one that feeds the rabbits, so I'm being extremely careful with that. Although I did knock over a bucket today, and I spent 20 minutes picking up these tiny little pellets. Okay, humanitarian aid. Of course, we're feeding weekly in the city, dinner every night for the emergency workers. We've got the 1 refugee still living at our house. And of course, now we have 4 clients. We were kind of thinking that we may not have any clients during the summer, but now we've already got 4. And again, most of them are older. You know, I would say probably 53 to 68 age range. The village school, we are in the process of finding laptops and operating systems for them. We had a school down in Texas. Children do a fundraiser, and we're able to raise almost $3,000, and we're going to use that to help the school here in our village. We'll see if we can get some printers, but I'm not sure if there'll be enough for that. The local police, we have some very detailed or extensive complex first aid kits coming. We're hoping to have them by the end of the week, and we'll present them to the police department here. Also working with some different contacts back in America to try and get some supplies. I know a lot of really big city police departments gathered surplus equipment and sent it here to Ukraine, but most of that, pretty much all of that, went to the big cities. So little towns like what is next to us, you know, they didn't really get much of anything. But yet they still have a lot of the risks. Out on the roadblocks, you have a police officer that's right there beside the soldier. You know, but they don't have the body armor or the tactical vests or those kind of things, or they have just a couple sets that they're passing around. So we're working on some of that. A young man, Sasha, that we know from a town down south, contacted, we know him through our pastor, and contacted the pastor, and he's in the military now, and his unit is getting ready to move to the front line. And so they were in need of some things. So Pastor Sergey shared that with us and a number of other people. And so we bought a bunch of different items. We bought a lot of kind of construction items, nails, screws, those kind of things, an axe. We also bought a lot of first aid kind of things for them. And the list was kind of split up amongst a number of people. Since the government is really trying to pour all their resources into specific things in the military, you know, into fighting and helping and protecting refugees and those kind of things, the Ukrainian people are stepping up to buy items for the different soldiers and the different units. So this is really one great thing about their collective culture here. And we were just, you know, honored to be participating in that. As far as the prison systems, I've continued to make contact with a lot of the different staff that I've developed a relationship with in the Ukrainian prison system. Making sure that they're okay, because some of their areas have been hit by a lot of shelling. This is about the 3rd or 4th time that I've checked on them through this period of the war. I've had some inquiries of 1 or 2 correctional officers in America about how they might be able to help the correctional officers here. So I'm kind of gathering information and trying to figure out what we might be able to coordinate for them. Let's see. An interesting thing about a law was passed that some of the prisoners who met specific criteria, who wanted to join the military to fight for Ukraine, were allowed to leave prison early and to go fight, but they had to meet these specific circumstances. Some of the prisons that were in the hot spots actually evacuated all of their prisoners out of those areas. And I remember when I worked for the Federal Bureau of Prisons in downtown Los Angeles with the Rodney King riots, and we moved out hundreds of prisoners in order to help the Sheriff's Department as they arrested so many people. They didn't have enough space, and so we actually stored them in our federal prison where I worked. Refugees. There's a couple new families that we've made contact with, and we've gone by and given food bags and seen what else they need. We're hoping to buy some diapers for 2 families that have small boys. We are giving out eggs a number of times, just kind of keeping in contact with them, not pressuring them, but just touching base with them every, 4, 5, 6 days just to see if they need anything. The family from Chernihiv, they actually set off again to try and reach their city, and they actually made it into their city. And they are already back here safely. They brought back their delivery truck vehicles. They were able to hand out a lot of the humanitarian aid that we gave them, and I've posted a video of that. One woman was so excited about the toilet paper. They said that the roads were just extremely damaged, but there were some crews already out trying to fix the roads. The damage outside of their city is very extensive, and just were pounded by the shelling. They are hoping to fill up some of their trucks, the big trucks, and take a lot of humanitarian aid back up there again. And so we're probably going to be helping out with that when they decide that they're going to do that. We're also kind of working on an English club for the tweens and the teens here in the village, and to invite some of the refugee kids that are about that age. Been talking with the school director, and she's going to be talking with the teachers and the students and to see who might be interested. And we shared with them the video that the Christian school down in Texas did, and so the village school is going to be doing a video to send back to that Christian school in Texas. News. Okay, I have had to really limit looking at some of the news because it's just been so overwhelming, and I just kind of need to take a break every once in a while from it. So I do have some news for you tonight. In the village, in a specific village in the Sumy region, or the Sumy state, where the Russian military was, they have actually found sarin gas, some ampules. They found the remnants of chemical weapons in the village called Bilka, and it was sarin and a couple other substances. So the Ukrainian Secret Services are obviously very actively investigating this. For the Russian army is not taking its dead soldiers with them when they retreat. They're just abandoning them, and a lot of the soldiers who are injured are being abandoned. I watched a video of a woman who is one of the really well-known snipers for the Russian military. She was injured, and she was just kind of bitter that her fellow soldiers would just leave her behind. The Russian army is agitating or pressing upon their military personnel to sign short-term contracts for a period of 3 months to a year in order to keep them in the military. I think they are required to serve when they hit a certain age for 3 years, but those people who are wanting to get out, they're pressuring them. The rotation of the units that they have in the Eastern Military District in the Syrian Arab Republic have been postponed, so they're not moving those soldiers back home from Syria, back to Russia. Russia has deployed up to 20,000 mercenaries from Syria, Libya, and other places into the Donbass, which is the east part of Ukraine. And these guys are mainly used as a big mass against the Ukrainian resistance. They're calling us the resistance. They work like infantry without heavy equipment or vehicles. Russian soldiers plan to hold a pseudo-referendum in Kherson to create the KNR, so the Kherson National Republic, I think is what it is. According to witnesses, though, the printing house of the Novaya Kakhovka is already printing ballot papers for the referendum, and they're planning the same thing in Mykolaiv. The mayor of Mykolaiv talked today in a video about the shelling that was done by Russian troops yesterday to his city, and he says that they were told it was in revenge for the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet, Moskva, which was sunk by Ukrainian missiles, although the Russian military denies that, but here they're saying they're taking revenge on Ukraine for that. What is really interesting is that this ship, the Moskva, was actually built in Mykolaiv, and I think it was released or christened on the 13th of some month, and then it was sunk here on the 13th. There's some jokes about those dates going around here in Ukraine. The Secret Service of Ukraine intercepted a call between a Russian soldier and his mother. He tells his mother that the Russian soldiers, are killing civilians in Ukraine, but she's very strongly convinces him otherwise. No, you don't kill civilians and children, you kill fascists. Fascist, uses some cuss words. Believe me, stop it, the woman says, and emphasizes that the killing is being done for a greater cause. So here the soldier is trying to tell his mother the truth, but she's beating him down with the rhetoric. The threat of missile attacks on Ukraine from the territory of Belarus continues. Interesting, the Pentagon reports that the Russian Federation now has about 75% of the troops that it originally gathered on February 24th. So if that means that the Ukrainian army has taken out 25% of their troops, that's a huge amount. And if any military loses a third or more of their military and resources, basically they've lost the war. Russian troops continue to shell a town in the Dnipropetrovsk region, and they're using the banned cluster munitions. So internationally, those are banned. As a result, playground, educational institution, residential buildings were damaged, and they found 17 of these huge craters from the cluster munitions within the city. Russia continues to be unsuccessful in many areas in reaching their goals, and they're having to retreat quite a bit. The Ukrainian army continues to defeat or destroy many of the Russian units. For example, the 200th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, that just sounded weird, of the 14th Army Corps, 3 companies of the 51st Airborne Regiment, and 1 company of the 137th Airborne Regiment, both of which are a part of the 106th Airborne Division. In numerous places, the Russians are retreating, and the Ukrainian armed forces are taking back control of these different locations. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And although the Russians are trying to keep it secret, the Russian military is taking their families out of Bryansk region, deeper into Russia, which is kind of just north of Ukraine. So they're kind of evacuating some of their families there. Information was picked up through some phone conversations that Russia is planning to shell different settlements in the south of Ukraine and to blame the Ukrainian army for it. They believe, the Ukrainian Secret Service believe that this is the plan in order to bolster the Russians' position with the people in those towns in order to get them to vote for the mock referendums that they're trying to hold. I don't know why they're pushing that, because they've already got all the ballots filled out already. Russian troops occupying Kherson in Ukraine have begun preparations for the Victory Day celebrations. I watched a video where Russian soldiers were working on the Eternal Flame at the World War II memorial, and they call the end of World War II victory and the Great Patriotic War. And so it's really big in their history of how they beat down the fascists, the Nazis, and so they're wanting these different celebrations to happen, which usually is on the 1st of May. And actually, we live on a street called the 1st of May. There's a lot, I think just about every city has that street name. And it's in celebration of the end of World War II. So the Russians are really pushing these celebrations because they're here to fight the Nazis, and they're linking it back to World War II. In the temporarily occupied Izum of the Kharkov region, or Izum town of the Kharkov region, the Russian Federation is forcibly mobilizing men to take part in the war against Ukraine. And one of our graduated clients, his family is down in an area that's controlled by the Russians, and his son and brother are not going out in public at all because the men are being grabbed and being forced into service. And so the women are pretty much the ones that are going, sneaking down real quietly to the little stores to buy whatever they can buy, because the shelves are pretty much empty, you know, because the Russians aren't bringing in much. Different reports are being compiled now between the Ukrainian coroner's office and the French coroners who are here helping, and they're bringing together all the numbers of the civilians that have been killed in the Kiev region, and it's well over 1,000 now. And that includes Buchi and Irpin and another of quite a number of other locations up there. Despite the heavy fighting and being outnumbered, the Ukrainian military continues to destroy Russian equipment in Mariupol. And Mariupol has pretty much just been leveled to the ground, but the Ukrainian military that is there is just fighting a lot of guerrilla warfare and just really antagonizing the Russians there, which is really good. To end on a good note, the Ukrainian military has liberated 919 settlements, that's as village, towns, or cities in 7 different oblasts here in Ukraine. So that's a good thing. Ukraine is taking back its territory just slowly. So thank you all for liking our posts, for your comments, for your prayers, for your encouragement. It's really, really important to us, and it really just encourages us a lot. In those days where we're just really struggling with what's going on, we go and read those posts, and it brings tears of joy to our eyes a lot. So as you can tell, I'm very tired. I'm going to be going to bed now as soon as I can get this posted. So good night.